Good afternoon, boys and girls. Thank you for returning to our story, The Secret of the Hidden Scrolls. We finished the first book and it was all about God's creation of the earth. The second book is called Race to the Ark. And in this story, as you may know, it's all about Mary, Peter, and Hank the dog as they travel back in time to when Noah built the ark to save all of the animals and his family from God's anger. You have to figure out why God was angry, but we will get into that, okay? So, the first part of the book has a prologue. This sort of kind of brings us up to date before we start in. So the prologue comes before the story begins. And so let's see what happens. 9-year-old Peter and his 10-year-old sister, Mary, stood at the door to the huge old house and waved as their parents drove away. Remember that? Peter and Mary and their dog, Hank, would be spending a month with Great Uncle Solomon. Peter thought it would be the most boring month ever until he realized Great Uncle Solomon was an archaeologist. Remember we talked about that? An archaeologist is a scientist who likes to dig up old things and learn about the histories. Great Uncle Solomon showed them artifacts and treasures and told them stories about his travels around the world. And then he shared his most amazing discovery of all, the legend of the hidden scrolls. These weren't just dusty old scrolls. They were filled with secrets, and they would lead to travel through time. Soon, Peter, Mary, and Hank were flung back in time to the creation of the earth. They saw amazing things, and they had exciting adventures. Remember Michael the angel and that snake, Satan? Now, Peter and Mary are ready for their next adventure. As soon as they hear the lions roar, boys and girls, stay tuned. Afterwards, I will show you how to make a scroll. Chapter 1, The Rain. "Oh, will it ever stop raining?" said Peter. He stared out of the window of Great Uncle Solomon's house. It had been raining for 2 days. Peter wanted to go outside and explore the woods. "Ruff!" barked Hank. That's the dog, remember? He dropped a ball at Peter's feet. "It's too wet to go outside," said Peter. Hank picked up the ball and dropped it at Mary's feet. She didn't look up from the book she was reading. "Woof!" Hank barked so loudly, Mary almost jumped out of the comfy leather chair. Hank dropped the slobbery ball into her lap. "Oh, yuck!" She picked it up and threw it, and it hit Peter in the back of the head. "Ouch!" Peter rubbed his head. "Why did you do that?" "Don't bother me," she said. "I'm reading." Peter could not understand why Mary read so much. She read about history and science and animals and space. It was almost like she enjoyed reading. "What are you reading?" asked Peter. Mary held up her book. "I'm reading The History of Dogs, a tale of survival from the Bark Ages to today." Get it? Those of you, the Bark Ages? "Oh, sounds boring," said Peter. He threw the ball down the hallway and Hank brought it back. "It's not." Mary showed them a picture of a wolf. "Did you know that Hank's great ever so great grandfather was a wolf?" Hank growled at the picture. "Easy, Hank." Peter grabbed his nose so he wouldn't attack the book. "It's just a picture." Peter looked at the picture and then at Hank. How could that mean-looking wolf be Hank's great ever so great grandfather? "All dogs come from wolves," Mary said. She showed Peter a picture full of dogs. "In fact, there are more than 340 breeds of dogs that come from one wolf." "Ruff!" barked Hank. He walked a little bigger and tougher around the living room. He even ran over and growled at the tall, shiny suit of armor guarding the hallway to the library. The suit of armor didn't move. "It's okay," said Peter. "It's not alive." He slowly reached his hand toward the armor, but pulled back. Well, at least I don't think it's alive. Peter took a closer look. There was a long sword in his right hand and a shield in his left. Peter backed away a bit. "Hey, Mary!" shouted Peter. "Come look!" Mary grunted as she walked across the room. "What's so important?" Peter pointed. "Do you remember seeing this lion on the shield?" Mary bent forward. "I don't think so. Maybe it's a clue." A clue for what?" Peter asked. "Maybe it's time to go to the library and open another scroll," said Mary. "It's been 3 days since we opened the first one." Peter ran down the hall and slid to a stop in front of the library. The doors were tall and old and looked like they came from a castle. And here's a picture of that suit of armor. Do you see the lion on the shield? Could be a clue. He reached toward a handle. It was shaped like a lion's head. "Open it," Mary said. Peter squeezed tight. "It won't turn." Mary sighed. "I guess we'll have to wait for the lion's roar. Remember the legend of the hidden scrolls? And it said, 'Amazing adventures are in store for those who follow the lion's roar.' Too bad. Today would be a good day for an adventure," Peter said. He looked down at Hank. "So, what do you want to do now?" Hank ran back down the hallway and brought the ball back. Peter threw it again. It bounced off walls and rolled into a room. Hank chased it. "Hank, come back!" shouted Peter. Hank ran out of the room with a huge bone in his mouth. "Drop it," said Peter. "You don't know where that bone has been." Hank would not drop it. "It could be from an old mummy," said Peter. Hank dropped the bone and growled at it. "Come on, let's put it back before we get in trouble." Peter picked up the bone and began to walk down the hallway. He wondered when the lion would roar again so they could go in and open another scroll. Woof! He walked toward the doorway of the room, and when he looked in, his mouth dropped open. "Mary, you have got to come and see this!" Chapter 2. An old leather book. That means the cover of the book was made out of leather. "Look what I found!" shouted Peter. Mary sighed again as she walked down the hallway. "Hurry!" "Okay, I'm here." Mary folded her arms. "Now, what's so important?" Peter pointed into the room. Mary's eyes got as big as saucers. "Look at all these shovels." Peter picked up a small shovel from a pile on the shelf. "We could have used this to build a sandcastle on our last adventure." "This must be where Great Uncle Solomon keeps his archaeology tools," said Mary. Peter picked up some binoculars. "Check these out." Peter looked across the room through the binoculars, and when he turned back to Mary, she was unrolling a large map she had found on the table. Peter grabbed a flashlight from a shelf. "What's that?" "It's a map of Israel," said Mary. "How do you know?" asked Peter. Mary pointed to the top of the map. "It's written right there in big letters, Israel." "I know," said Peter. "I just wanted to make sure you did." Mary shook her head and said, "Yeah, sure you did." Peter shined the flashlight on the map. "What is that big red X in the middle?" Mary picked up a magnifying glass from the table. "It looks like the X is on top of some hills in a desert beside the Dead Sea. Wait, isn't that where Great Uncle Solomon discovered the hidden scrolls?" "You're right!" Mary looked up. "I'm right sometimes," Peter said, grinning. "I wonder if there's anything else here to help us find out more about the scrolls," said Mary. And here's Mary looking at the map of Israel. And again, I will show you what my scroll has on it after we finish today's reading. was standing over a brown leather bag. Peter picked it up and plopped it on the table. Mary gave Peter a big sister look. "Be careful. We don't know what's in there." Peter unzipped the bag and looked inside. "There's nothing here but an old leather book." And he tossed it on the table. Mary opened the book. "This isn't just a book, it's a handwritten journal." "What's it about?" said Peter. Mary looked down and read, July 8th. "It is very hot in this desert. Even my camel is getting thirsty. I have been searching for the hidden scrolls for 152 days, and I am losing hope of ever finding them." "What else does it say?" Peter moved closer so he could see. Mary turned the page. And this is what the writing looked like in the journal. July 9th. "I hired a new guide today. He knows more about the scrolls than I do. He told me the scrolls were hidden 2,000 years ago, but he can help me find them. He also told me the legend of the hidden scrolls, and I am writing it down so I don't forget." Here is the legend of the hidden scrolls. "The scrolls contain the truth you seek. Break the seal, unroll the scroll, and you will see the past unfold. Amazing adventures are in store for those who follow the lion's roar." "Ah, there you are," said a raspy old voice behind them. "I see you found my adventure journal." Peter spun around. Great Uncle Solomon was standing in the doorway. He adjusted his round glasses under his bushy white eyebrows. Mary quickly closed the book and put it on the table. "Peter found it, and he made me read it." Peter's heart pounded in his chest. "It's not my fault. Hank found it." Great Uncle Solomon smiled. Don't worry, I'm not angry." He picked up the journal and flipped through the pages. "This journal has many great memories." Roar! Excuse me. The lion's roar echoed down the hallway from the library. "There is no time to tell you," said Great Uncle Solomon. He ran around the room, grabbing things from the shelves and putting them in the brown leather bag. "What are you doing?" asked Mary. Great Uncle Solomon put the journal in the bag and zipped it shut. "Here are a few things to help you on your adventure. Go!" Great Uncle Solomon handed the bag to Peter. "You don't want to make the lion wait." "Let's go," said Peter. He hung the bag over his shoulder and ran down the hall to the library. Mary and Hank were close behind. Peter stopped and stared at the lion's head handle. Remember? He couldn't turn it. He reached for the handle and turned. Click. Peter swung the door open and they ran in. Bang! The door shut behind them. Roar! The sound came from behind the tall bookshelves on the right. Hank ran over and barked at one of the books. Mary quickly found the red book with a lion's head, painted in gold on the cover. She pulled it off the shelf. As she pulled it, the tall bookshelf rumbled. Then it slid open to reveal the hidden room. It was dark, except for a glowing clay pot in the center of the room that held the scrolls. Peter ran to the pot with Mary and Hank on his heels. Hank sniffed at one of the scrolls. Peter picked it up and he looked at it. "What's on that red wax seal?" Mary asked. Peter took a closer look. "I'm not sure." Mary looked at it. "I think it's a boat." "I guess we could use one with all this rain," said Peter. He broke the seal. Suddenly the walls shook. Books fell off the shelves and the floor quaked. Peter grabbed Mary's hand. "Here we go!" The library crumbled around them and disappeared. And then everything was still and quiet. So I don't know if you were listening to the clues, but there was a boat on the wax seal. Looks like there's going to be a boat in this adventure. And the day started out raining. which might be a clue as there's going to be a lot of rain, like 40 days of it. Next week, we will read chapter 3 and 4. Chapter 3 is down in the valley.